We're live.
Hi, welcome to Convention Conversations. This is episode 10. It's presented by the Transparency Coalition. I'm so excited to be here. My name is Colleen Great. My pronouns are she, her. I am in the Eastern region, specifically in New York City. I am so excited to be here. I am not a delegate or a counselor. I am a member at large of Actors Equity Association, and I'm here in the best possible company right now. Will you introduce yourself? Start it out, Sarah Quinn Taylor.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm Sarah Quinn Taylor. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I am an Eastern Chorus delegate. I also, y'all have probably seen my face a lot. And so I was like, Sarah, maybe don't sign up for as many of these. But we're talking about the chorus today, and that makes me so excited. So I literally had to show up. Also, this is my dog, Harvey, who inevitably realizes when I am on camera about things and then needs to sit on my lap. So ignore him.
Oh, easier said than done when he's yawning so sweetly. My name is Katrina Michaels. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm an Eastern Principal Delegate based in New York City, although originally from England. And I'm stoked to learn some more and discuss chorus stuff too. I'm also an actor musician myself. So I'm stoked by this actor musician resolution.
Great. And we may have another person or two joining us, so we will introduce them as they do. As we mentioned, today we are discussing chorus and actor musicians, which I desperately wish I was one. Sad to say, I am not. So thank you for joining us. We're so happy you're here. Okay, so we need someone to read the mission statement and code of conduct. Do either of you volunteer? I'm happy to do it if neither of you want to, but you probably both have better voices than me.
Not true.
Okay, I'll go ahead and do it. I'm going to use my big girl voice for this. The Transparency Coalition is a group of Actors Equity Association delegates dedicated to leadership and commitment of our union's members. We're bringing the discussion of convention resolutions and amendments directly to members through a series of live discussions, allowing members to ask questions and express their support or concerns in real time. We are committed to creating an environment that is rooted in respect so that we can productively create and sustain this inclusive, respectful, brave, safe space to discuss complicated issues. We will always extend that respect to members watching, and we seek the same in return. What we ask is that both the members engaging in conversation with us and the delegates themselves hold these two agreements. 1, speak from the I. 2, confront confusion or discomfort with curious questions. While we are happy to engage in constructive debate, we view harassment and discrimination as a clear threat to free expression and participant safety, and as such, they will not be tolerated. We ask that if the members who engage with us give us the grace to say, I don't know, or to get it wrong sometimes. We bring you this series of convention conversations not only to have meaningful dialogue with current and future members, but to learn more ourselves about the important policies of our union and to enhance our ability to serve as trusted liaisons for our fellow union members. Woo! And it looks like we've had Jonathan Brody join us. Would you please introduce yourself, Jonathan?
Hi, I'm Jonathan. I'm a Eastern Chorus delegate here in New York countryside.
Yay.
Nice to see you, Jonathan. All right, so
Good to be here.
We encourage viewers, please ask questions, engage with us, share any comments in the chat. We will respond to this. They will respond to them live. This is interactive. We really want to hear from you. This is a conversation. Okay, so let's start off with some chorus history. Sarah, could you give us just like a little brief situation of chorus history? Just a little bit.
Okay. Well, actually, I may, now that Jonathan's with us, I may actually kick it to him, but I will also say that two incredible individuals who I look up to so much, being a chorus member, are Kim Jordan and Jen Cody. and Jen Cody is our current second vice president. Is that right? That's like
Yes.
official title.
Yes.
And she is also, which was that position was previously held by our Kim Jordan. Like, we're talking about royalty here, in the figurative, not the literal sense. Both. Jen Cody is actually the chair of the ACCA, the chorus committee, and she reached out to me today that she is at work but available for me to text her if anything comes up. But then also she was like, please put my email out for people, which we will, like, for people to contact me. Anyway, I preface all of that by saying our Kim Jordan may or may not be able to join us today, which would be awesome because she could literally write a textbook on the history of the chorus. But I'm going to put Jonathan on the spot. And like, between the two of us, we are going to talk about the chorus. Jonathan, go ahead.
Well, just because I'm older, I know more history.
I know. You said it, not me.
My gray beard betrays me. I don't know quite what you're looking for as far as history, but if people don't know, Chorus Equity was originally its own separate union and merged with Actors Equity, I think, in the 50s. But a couple of the very important things when it was taken in under Equity's umbrella was that the Chorus issues retained their own autonomy. So ACCA was the committee that was created for chorus affairs, and that committee can make its own recommendations, like for contract negotiations and like that. They don't have to go to council first. That and the stage manager committee are among the committees that have their own autonomy to put things forward like that. And I guess at the time, creation and retention of the chorus contract was crucial. And over the years, a lot of employers and even some members have wanted to get rid of the chorus contract. But there are protections under the chorus contract, which are very important, especially to those of us who do chorus work, and things that protect your job, and you don't have to renegotiate or fear that your contract won't be renewed every 6 months if you're on a long-term contract, because you are run of the play if you're on a pink contract. And other protections like parts payments and for chorus parts and things that you cover. And there are also they now on the production contract can sign you to a 6-month rider, but there are protections there as well.
I just want to hop in and highlight something that Jonathan said that is just super cool, because I'm a chorus fanatic, if you will, and I learned this from Jen and our Kim Jordan. And Jonathan already said it, but I just want to highlight it. The ACCA committee, the chorus committee, is one of only a few that are enshrined in Actors Equity's constitution, if you will. Right. Like that basically is why Jonathan spoke to like the power that committee has. Like, it's written into the constitution, which was this goes into like a lot of history that I'm not really even equipped to speak on, but essentially over time, from Actors Equity's inception, if you will, different groups and coalitions of people have been brought into the fold of that overarching union. Does that make sense? So essentially, when the chorus itself was like being brought into the fold, and chorus members, that was one thing that was like enshrined in our constitution. And Jonathan already explained all of that, but I just think that is so cool. And so I wanted to highlight it again, because it's, I think personally, the reason that I'm at this conversation right now and here and jazzed about talking about these resolutions is I so often hear from people, it starts literally in like middle school and high school when people audition for their school musical and they're like, oh, I'm just in the chorus. I'm like, what do you mean just in the chorus? Like that is amazing. And the skills, like chorus members are superheroes, and the skills that it takes to do what we do is like so specific and cool. And I'm gonna do like a live Instagram TED Talk with Jen Cody about this conversation, because to hear Jen Cody talk about the empowerment that she feels through being a chorus member and fighting for chorus members is like, it's better than church.
One of the cool resolutions that I believe it's Jen put forward was about creating a chorus contract for plays, because now there's been plays that had a chorus or people who function as chorus, but even more so now with plays like War Horse and Harry Potter, there are people whose jobs really are exactly what it is as chorus in a musical, but they don't get a lot of the benefits and all the parts payments and things like that. So in a lot of Shakespeare plays, and of course Greek theater that has a actual chorus, it would make so much more sense for there to be a chorus contract or ensemble. What if it has to be called something different? But both those people should have those same protections.
I will say. Oh,
go ahead.
I've done Peter and the Starcatcher 5 times, and over 5 years at 5 different theaters in 5 different states. I can bust out Dodo.
Katrina Michaels.
It's not a flex. I just am Molly Astor. It's fine. But that is it's a play, but it's a play with one. It has music in it. There's 2 big numbers. There's a 12-person dance number. And yet there's no requirements when it comes to a dance captain. So then often people are taking on that additional work but aren't being compensated for it. And a lot of the play is very movement oriented, very ensemble movement oriented, because the premise of it is that everyone's on stage the entire time and, jumps about playing every role and parts of the ship, etc. And so it very much is an ensemble play, which would benefit from some of the protections that are on a chorus contract.
Exactly. There's 2 anecdotal stories that I always just think are interesting to point out the benefits of chorus. They both involve Broadway shows, where in one, when Equity made the original determinations, an actor who had been put originally on a chorus contract, they deemed it actually should be a principal contract. The actor playing the role was given the choice of whether to stay as a chorus contract or to convert it to a principal contract. And she very wisely chose to stay on the chorus contract because she knew she would have her job protected. And she stayed with that show for, I think, 4 or 5 years. In another instance, recently, there was an actor who was originally on a principal contract, but Equity deemed there was actually a chorus track. Through the changes that went on, that track took on sort of more chorus responsibilities. But again, an actor was given the choice, and that actor chose to stay as a principal because they felt it was more prestigious to be a principal. And then along the way, there were some issues and about renegotiating, and when it came time finally to renew the contract, the company was tired of, what was going on. They just decided not to renew this actor contract. And if they had chosen to take the chorus contract, they would have kept their job. And these are all, of course, individual decisions. And it's, but it just makes me sad that so many people in the industry and even within the union look down on chorus and still consider it just a chorus job and feel like it's a demeaning thing. There's also a practice that I'm not hugely fond of in a lot of the regional theaters or SPT theaters where they only have 4 or 5 equity contracts and they do a musical, and often it is more beneficial to them to put an actor in a principal role on the one required chorus contract. They pay them an extra bump. So actually that actor gets more money than the principals, or if everyone's at minimum. But sometimes it's just hard for them in the regions to find an equity chorus person, but they would rather have an equity actor in one of the principal roles as part of their ratio. So it's understandable, but also unfortunate. But there are times where some actors turn down the job because they don't want to be offered the chorus contract, even though it's the same principal role they would play in any other production. So that's an anecdote.
Question for you, as someone who I've never worked on a chorus contract, so I'm a bit uninformed in this domain.
Right.
We've talked about added job protections, especially when it comes to renegotiation. Do you have any specifics about what that entails?
Well, the thing is, you don't have to renegotiate a chorus contract unless you're signed to a 6-month or a 1-year rider. Then technically, that can be up. But on a principal contract, you usually sign for 6 months or a year, and at the end of that term, you renegotiate. In a successful show, and often, and if you're well liked, you can renegotiate for more money, or finally, or get an extra out for other work, things like that. People negotiate those things, and of course, people can try and negotiate those things too, but it's often more difficult. But your job is protected; it's run of the play, so you don't have to renegotiate it.
Oh, cool.
Two thoughts. Firstly, to Jonathan's second antidote about, sorry, I'm hearing echoing in my headphones and it's distracting me. Wait, Jonathan, remind me what your second thing. Oh my God, I'm literally having a brain fart.
I mean, the first two were one actor who chose to stay on a chorus contract and kept her job, the other of an actor who chose to stay on a principal contract and ended up losing their job because the company didn't want to renew his contract. Jokes,
Jonathan, that was a trick question because my brain just started to work again. The idea of we're back, we're live.
It's the weekend.
Please.
It's a long week.
This is real life reality of the inside of a delegate's brain that everyone who will watch this just witnessed. Okay, I'm going to say it before I lose my train of thought. The idea that Jonathan was saying about the chorus equity contract being used so sparingly, in places that are outside of New York City or LA or Chicago, or even larger regional theaters that, I'm thinking Muni in St. Louis, Goodspeed, and I'm thinking of all these different things. And talking to fellow delegates and members about these about this chorus resolution, this is my own short-sightedness of my own perspective in the bubble that I am in. But I was shocked at how many people were oh yeah, that one really interests me because I've actually never worked on a chorus contract, nor have I worked in a space where there has been an equity chorus contract. And I was what? So this is I feel like this is just the beginning. The four of us having this conversation is, I hope people will watch it and then continue to ask questions. But it is this weird thing that since I've left school and university and joined the union, 97% of the contracts I have done are equity chorus contracts. So in my head, I just automatically assumed, oh, everybody knows, and everybody's reading Jen Cody's resolution. And I'm yeah, sure. Y'all it's the wild, wild west out here. There's so much to learn, which is like so exciting. Second point, the thing that I am learning as a delegate, and just by sheer force of doing it, because I signed my name, said I wanted to do it, and I didn't know what I was signing up for, is the intersection of why we all enter this industry, to use our skills and whatever to make art. The intersection of that with the intersection of the bureaucracy and the systems and the language and the definitions and the et cetera, and how those things are so integrated, literally, legally, but how little, like the imbalance of those things, I guess, like in my own knowledge. And so the thing that interests me about this resolution in particular, I'm just going to read the first whereas clause because I think it perfectly encapsulates this. Whereas the definition of chorus was established in 1919 and reestablished when Chorus Equity merged with Actors Equity Association in 1955. And that definition was amended in 1964, 1972, 1983, 1989, and in 2000 by the ACCA, Advisory Committee on Chorus Affairs.
I so want to know what the specific definitions are and how they evolved. It mentions in the resolution in 2000 that the definition was specific to more specifically define chorus to include any actor whose primary function is to be part of an ensemble, either they're not singing or dancing. So that's the 2000 edition. But I'm fascinated to know, like, 64 versus 72 versus 83, like, and how much of that is based on the shows that are being produced and how the function of artists change based on the shows, or how much of it is based on artists' needs and how, like, which one, it's a little chicken egg probably, but like how much is shaped by the chorus artists and how much is shaped by the shows that have chorus in them.
Right? I mean, it's just like,
I don't know anything, it's just fascinating.
Personally, I can only speak from the eye, but as someone who saw a musical in middle school and was like, that looks fun, I want to do that, and then had taken piano and like could sing, so then I started taking dance and like started doing musicals, and then still do it because I love to do it. This whole history and all of that is like, it's exciting because learning this stuff gives you just like that heightened respect and that heightened like ownership and empowerment behind what you've chosen as your career. But there is like, blows my mind. It's so cool, but it's like, specifically this resolution talking about, okay, what is the how do we change this definition of chorus to fit into ensemble work in a play? And putting definitive words around that, whatever that looks like, you know. This resolution's just saying, hey, can we talk about it? But wild. Wild.
And speaking to the history of it, that's like what's so exciting for me being a union member and knowing that that's like the history and context that goes into all of these definitions and how it's evolved over time. That's like part of how we've landed where we are. And some of that means that we have to continue to evolve and grow. But there's like, I take such deep pride in being a union member because I'm carrying with me in every chorus contract I work, the history of what this chorus contract has become now.
My little sister for Christmas gave me a illustrated history of, I'll pull it up because it's the nerdiest thing I own.
Just trotting off screen.
It's like my little sister knows me
Oh,
so
yeah.
well. It is it probably actually has stuff about the chorus, and so I should dive in. But it is Performance of the Century: 100 Years of Actors Equity Association and the Rise of Professional American Theater.
That was a lovely book that Equity commissioned for the 100th anniversary. And I was lucky enough to be on council at the time, so we were gifted the book. But it is available for purchase.
Actually, it wasn't even
It
was my sister's boyfriend. He did very well with this one.
Wait,
Yeah.
will you put the title of that book and the author in the chat?
Yes, I can do in the private chat.
Try that.
Yeah, I got
Dang
you.
it, Jonathan, why wasn't I on council then?
It's your birthday, Sarah. Just tell everyone when your birthday is, and maybe it'll just show up on your doorstep sometime.
I mean, honestly, anyone who's watching this, DM me for my address if you have funds. I do not have the funds, but wow. See, like, I didn't even know that book existed. Wow.
Wow.
Wow. Amazing. Amazing. I guess this is kind of the halfway point. I don't know. Hold on.
Do we want to transition over to the next resolution we are discussing today? This one I'm particularly interested in hearing about, the actor-musician resolution, which is made by Erica Walsh and co-sponsored by Robert Ariza and Adriana Gaviria. And the background is this is actors who are musicians are often not paid for their talent, time, instruments, and rehearsal to perform with those instruments in a play and a musical. So the resolution is basically to address all of those concerns, like instrument doubling and having instrument rentals and care and understudies, guidelines for understudies, and a million other very important things. And I am so interested to talk more about this as a non-musician. I'd love to learn more.
Yeah, speaking as an actor musician, the fact is our contracts have very minimal language. Some of them don't even mention it at all, but the ones that do, it's like 2 to 3 sentences, and usually it's actually just about the instrument versus the actor musician playing the instrument. And right now, actor musicians are having to take on a lot of added responsibilities and risks without additional payment. The fact is, when it comes to responsibilities, often the actor musician kind of has to act as arranger, composer. You're given like certain chords and are basically kind of creating it together. That's extra labor and time you are doing. Often actor musician is acting as a music director. There's so many shows like Ring of Fire, or like shows where it's just all of the actor musicians on stage together. You don't have a conductor off, or a music director who is leading you. You often are having to really take on that creative burden yourself when you are performing. And so again, it's this extra labor. And when it comes to kind of the risk element, when you're playing an instrument in a show, you either the theater rents it from you or they provide an instrument. Now, there's very minimal language on like what are the rental fees. Often it's been taken as like a standard $25. But that doesn't take into consideration the range of costs when it comes to an instrument's value, when it comes to its maintenance costs. And speaking of maintenance, there's not language on, if your strings break and you need to get new strings, that shouldn't be the actor musician's responsibility. The strings broke because they're using it in performance. Like if your prop breaks, you wouldn't have to pay for it. This is an extra thing people are taking on. When it comes to picks, when it comes to strings, when it comes to, in general, there's very limited language on even insurance for these instruments. A lot of language just says adequate insurance, which is like, what are we determining? And often that's being determined by people who aren't musicians themselves. They might think, oh, this is just like a minimal scratch. It's kind of superficial. That actually affects the acoustics of these instruments, which are like prized possessions that are worth a lot and are the means for someone's livelihood at the end of the day. And if we are asking someone to play an instrument in a show, it needs to be fully protected. The producer needs to be fully liable, and the artist needs full kind of say in how it is being used, who is handing it off. And yes.
Okay, this is all so fascinating because I, like Colleen, I'm not an actor musician.
Let's do it. Let's do it, Sarah. Let's pick up an instrument.
I got the accordion ready.
I jokingly, with my girlfriend's brother-in-law, have concerts for the family because they're all like attorneys and accountants, and so I have musical ability and he has sort of musical ability. Hey Jesse, you'll never be watching this. So we like jokingly do that, and I like play piano and like the ukulele, but if someone ever asked me to do it on stage, I'd be like, nah, I'm good. So I have, first of all, my first question is this, like when we're talking about just like the instruments, isn't there also a world where like actors would want to use their, like actor musicians want to use like their own instrument? And like, is that something that is like kind of negotiated, I guess, but then is that separate language that has to, like, if I'm thinking in terms of, you're going to think of it as like a prop. Again, all these definitions are like so vague, whatever. But if you're saying like, there's a difference between saying, hey, provide me the instrument, or hey, I'm bringing my own instrument. So then in theory, both of those things would need their own, like in the event of this, in the event of this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I mean, a lot of
forgive me. It's like going back to basics here.
Love it. Jonathan.
I was just going to say that right now it is pretty much up to actor musicians to negotiate their own terms and whether they use their own instrument and what kind of protections they have and how much they get. The whole, I think, point of this resolution is to codify that and to get it negotiated into contracts so the actor doesn't have to negotiate it. It just exists. Just like wearing your own shoes in a show, that's already negotiated, the fee that you get. And the upkeep on your own things is covered. So that needs to be in the contracts and not the actor's responsibility. The other issue that Katrina brought up about also the responsibilities that often fall to the actor musicians of being the musical director or being the arranger, that I think language doesn't exist at all. And I'm not sure how much equity can negotiate that because those aren't actors' equity duties. But just as there are extra duties that stage managers have to do that aren't considered stage manager duties, but are now in a lot of contracts, as you know, you get extra payment for this. I think there's a way to do that as well.
But in the same way we have a dance captain, a music captain, if you know, say you're doing a show which is all musicians on stage, which there are a bunch of them and the number of them's only growing, and I actually think probably post-pandemic it's going to be lent into even more because one, it saves the company money, they're not paying for musicians and actors. Also, it's less bodies around. So I think if codified arrangement might be hard, but like music captain or something, or a music technician, because you often, you know, because there's a tricky thing with like who's also responsible for these instruments when they're not being played, when it comes to storage of them, when it comes to tuning of them, when it comes to like all these things are time and responsibilities, and none of it is codified, as you said. You know, there's very like taking the Lort contract, for example, it says the theatre shall negotiate with the actor a weekly instrumental rental rate when the actor agrees to use the actor's own musical instrument. The rate shall be stated in the contract. Like that's all that is said in relation to the instrument or the actor musician itself. Every place, most places, I was just gonna say, most places I've worked at, it's been $25 per week has been like standard, but it's not actually per instrument. Well, some places,
that's the problem.
Some places do less when it's more than one. Yeah, there's no actual set language at this point. And then so often it's negotiated with theatres who don't necessarily know the value of an instrument or know the maintenance of an instrument. There's also no language when it comes to transportation of instruments. You know, we're allowed £200 shipping for a gig. If I am bringing my bass and my accordion and my whatever, like Does that go in my £200? It shouldn't. Yes, my whole like one-man band, that shouldn't fall under my £200. Or if I want to take it with me on the plane, we're allowed 2 suitcases. Are we compensating additionally for my guitar, for my instruments there? And is insurance covering when we're in transport as well, not just first day of rehearsal? Because there is always that moment when you ship your instrument and you're like, please, like, I hope you're gonna be okay when I open this. I get very nervous about my accordion. She's a sensitive lady. But just so making sure these things are just like covered. I'm a firm believer that when it's written down in the contract, it automatically adds a layer of protection. And right now it's a little bit a wild musical west.
One thing that I'm not quite sure why this became a chorus resolution, because of course there are plenty of plays that don't have chorus that have actor musicians, and plenty of principal actor musicians as well in shows. But
really quick, I don't know if it's necessarily a chorus resolution. It just is. Okay. We're discussing both of these things on the same day. But continue. Sense. I mean, regardless.
But another issue, whether an actor who decides, well, I don't want to use my $10,000 flute in your show for only $25 a week. I would like you to provide me one. And you don't want the producer to make that a term of employment, that you have to bring your own instrument. You want the actor to be protected, that they have the choice whether to have the employer provide one or to play their own. And other actors would say, absolutely not. I don't want to play some $50 saxophone that I would rather bring my own because I know I can make good music with it.
That's what I was literally just about to say, because oh my God, there's so much nuance. Because in the realm of like, use your $10,000 flute or let me provide you one, I would think in Katrina's case, she would be like, please provide me one, but also can I be there?
there should be like a consultation on what and that comes down not just the instrument, but the when we come to maintenance, your guitar is going to sound very different based on what strings it has. So if your strings break and like the company's just providing the cheapest strings possible, and then you're the one playing it, and your musical integrity is part of it, and how you can communicate through your instrument is drastically altered, not just in the show, but then you're taking that instrument home with you as well, and you're using it to audition for your next gig and gain employment that way. There needs to be some protections there as well, of like, getting your instrument back in the state you brought it, essentially, strings and all.
Which also speaks to like storage, like what is the humidity level where it's being stored? And I know that is something that this resolution wants to address, is like, and something else that I thought was interesting that it brings up was crew instrument handling guidelines. If there's handoffs, how are things where it's like the crew needs to know how to handle these instruments that are incredibly valuable. The performance depends on it. There has to be like, I think just a conversation about it so that there's some integrity there in terms of treating the instruments. Because if I don't know how to hand off an accordion. Like, I'm like, where do I hold this thing?
Colleen's like,
and is this how we accordion his boat arms? I don't know. I have a guitar prop somewhere back there that I pretend, but I don't even know how to hold that thing.
This is phenomenal. We have Katrina and Jonathan in the bottom of the screen, literally just like spitting history and facts, and then Sarah and Colleen at the top of the screen that are like, "What's an accordion?"
It's a beautiful balance.
I do work often as an actor musician. I play piano though, so I never have to worry about providing my own instrument. Oh, right, there it is. Give us a concert,
an accordion. And so you have that.
Okay.
She's beautiful.
Can you just play something?
A little mazurka, come on.
Like literally a note.
Most of the songs I know are Czech drinking songs.
Fabulous.
Yeah, that's what we're asking for.
I can pour a cocktail. Like, I can justify this with a drink, if that helps.
We are actually asking for a Czech drinking song, so it's good that you know them, because that was going to be the only accessible song that we would...
Right? Like, that's when you bust out. I sing whenever it's my grandma's birthday, because my grandma's Czech. I always bust out the accordion for that too. For the rest of the family, it's more like uke, whimsy, but for Grandma Ruth Stein, it's all about the accordion.
I love this. I'm the resident like zoom way out person too, and so I'm going to do that for 2 seconds, because what's fascinating to me about this conversation is 2 things. One, this is like another perfect example of how, because I would look at this resolution that doesn't necessarily impact me directly and be like, sure, there's a place for this, like, to be codified in contractual language, but then there's also a piece of this that's like maybe just time spent educating actor musicians about things that they could ask for in their contract. But then no. I'm just like, but then having this conversation, like, Katrina, wait, I'm on your team. No,
Control your face, Katrina. Wait the face.
But like having this conversation, it's like the necessity of something like this that is one of the amazing things about this convention in general, is like Erica and Robert and Adriana, like they put their brains together on something that they're super passionate about, and like something that a million people have already been like thinking about, whatever, and like, hey, let's just do it, because if we just do it, it's going to help all of these people in so many ways. And so I think that across the board, I could look at resolutions that have been written in like every bucket or whatever. That's like, how cool is it that we have this opportunity to do something like this, that if you were going to try and just have like coffee chats with actor musicians, show up if you can. Like, how many times would it, like, and that is something that has been so exciting in my short stint of like being in governance directly and like in this like elected position role, of like realizing the power in that, and like the power in also understanding it, because something like this is so important. And so obviously it's like, heck yeah, let's do it, because it may not impact me directly, although Katrina, you're making me really stressed about the future of my employment possibilities.
Yeah, and like, you know, I got the uke here too. Like, you're good.
Okay, I do play the ukulele, so like, stay tuned. I'm gonna hire you for some lessons. But then also, I want to touch on something that Colleen said about handoffs, because my brain just went to a place with so much going on right now in terms of global pandemic, everything, people's emotions running high, people feeling one way and like speaking from passion, whatever. There are so many times, I'm sure we've all witnessed it during a show, whatever, where something happens and an actor is leaving the stage and is in the moment or whatever and says something, or something happens and a stage manager says something, whatever, to a crew person, and then that person is like, they were yelling at me. I mean, we could talk about quick changes. We could talk about so many things, but how cool to have this opportunity to, like, if Katrina is being asked to provide her own accordion that has so much emotional connection to her, you know, like whatever it is, and then like, because this, for whatever reason, this language isn't codified, like it isn't now, and then Katrina's leaving the stage and maybe something happened during the performance that was frustrating for her, but then she's leaving, and then somebody doesn't know, like Colleen is the stagehand, and Colleen is grabbing the accordion and messes it up, and then Katrina has an immediate, like, that's my baby reaction. And it's not a personal attack on Colleen who did something to the accordion. It's just like the situation that we have. But it's like, how cool. I am always trying to think too, because I'm a relational person, like how these words in a contract could also ripple effect to relationships. And like, how cool for someone that's going to be grabbing Katrina's accordion to just be told this stuff up front, so that they don't have to wonder, Katrina doesn't have to wonder, like it's there. And we're all, because then I think that builds mutual understanding and mutual respect and mutual appreciation, which like pipe dream, big idea TED talk, like I think we as humans are always striving for. So something as little as like, hey, can I please have 10 minutes to show blank person how to catch my accordion could lead to like so many other things.
Yeah, I think I'm.
Go on, Katrina.
Oh, I was just going to say,
You.
I was going to kind of pick it and say, yeah, I think, having that foundation of trust, we're inherently been thinking a lot with today's conversation about the ensemble, and, we're in such a collaborative medium ultimately, and how we create worlds together in a safe way. And so just having language, firstly, that, that the crew, any crew who's handling instruments is qualified to do so, whatever that looks like, has received some training on how to handle that instrument, and is also there's an explicit permission element from and consent from the person whose instrument it is, because sometimes you'll be staging a show and they'll be like, oh, and you just throw your guitar off stage left, someone will get it, and then you keep going. You're like, wait, but who's going to be there? Like, and how are we handling this? So like, just like having that moment of like consent for your instrument, and for like, that is a prized possession and a part of you, I think is important.
I was just going to inject a somber note of reality check that whereas I do think this resolution to me is a slam dunk, hopefully it will pass. But even once it passes, that's the beginning of a very long road. And hopefully then, a working group of actor musicians would work with staff to then develop the actual language to codify this. And then it has to go into every negotiation for every contract. And sadly, issues like this that sometimes that only affect a small portion of the membership and only affect maybe a small portion of a cast, sometimes get sidelined or say, well, yeah, this year we really have to get bigger salaries and higher pension and health contributions, so we're going to have to table that for this year. So these things can take a long time. Knowing how long it has taken to finally almost have dance captains at 20% for most contracts, and that was always something that was ACCA was the only thing they would put forward, or the very first thing, the top priority. And even sometimes like, yeah, but the dance captain is one person in a cast of 40 people, and we have to look at how this affects everyone. So very noble and important protections and issues sometimes just takes a very long time for them to get negotiated in because there are other priorities.
Yeah,
I was just going to say, Katrina, because you probably have talked to Erica and the other co-sponsors with this a lot. I am just curious, like because again, I was Jonathan, like it sounds like a slam dunk, but then literally my next question was going to be like, what are you hearing in regards to why someone wouldn't vote in favor of this? Are you hearing that?
Sure, yeah. I mean, I can only speak from the eye. I haven't heard the why not vote for it. I've heard the logistics of like, okay, what does this actually mean actionably? I think this is an important first step in actually having a committee that centers actor musicians, because so often there's minimal awareness. And I think a lot of people, they don't realize the added responsibilities and risks. So even just like having that awareness for the member at large, centering it with actor musician voices does a lot, because I generally don't think a lot of times it's not employees being malicious or trying to cheat actor musician money. It's often a lack of awareness on what they're really asking. And so I think having it as much common parlance in itself can do some good, even if it takes a while to actually get codified in contracts. So I think even just the act of having the committee is a super powerful one in itself. I do recognize that it might be a long time till that actually can result in contract language, but that doesn't negate the importance of this first step for me.
Oh, I was just,
Also,
I just
sometimes when
because,
things, I was just going to say that sometimes when
convention recommends, nope.
Do you want me to call on someone? Do you need to
Yeah.
raise your
Yeah, moderator.
Colleen.
Go ahead, Sarah.
I was literally just going to say that the convention recommends that council creates a working group or committee to create these. When you were saying that, Katrina, I just wanted to triple check the language of the actual resolution, because I think that just even based off this conversation, it's like hitting the sweet spot. Like, we should vote for this because yes, it, like, on principle, yes. Also understanding, yes, it may take a while. And then in the meantime, we keep doing things like this to raise awareness. You know, it's like, it's a yes and moment. Jonathan?
Exactly.
And I was just going to add that sometimes when things, you know, when the recommendation committee for contract negotiations will sometimes say, can we just put this forward as a talking point? So that even though we're not going to ask for it now, we want to talk to producers about it. And I hope this becomes a negotiating point, but if it doesn't, at least perhaps it can, as Sarah said, just create more awareness, and we can start letting producers know this is something we want to deal with in the future. And once some of them may not even be aware that it's an issue. Once they know that it's an issue, they'll be more open to how to negotiate these issues with actors, and may be more open to creating, language in their own contracts for the time being until it's codified.
I also firmly believe that too, and maybe, I'm about as pessimistic as they come, but I also try to be hopeful sometimes. And like in terms of thank you. It's a balancing act that I daily work to, that I daily strive for. So thank you. I receive that. But like, and again, I'm literally picking out like little things that Katrina has said and like running down the TED Talk rabbit hole with it. But like, Katrina, when you were talking about the strings, right? Like the quality of the strings, like at the end of the day, something that's the different, like is a $70 difference or whatever it is, or a difference in price. It's going to make your instrument sound better, which is going to make the thing sound better. Like, it's all like, I love that idea of raising awareness across the board, because it's like, may the producer maybe care a little bit more about the bottom line than how good the music sounds. Maybe some would, maybe not everyone. Like, there's such nuance that even just bringing it up from a point of like being passionate about it, like there is a mutual understanding that, hey, actually, if you put this in here and the person feels safer doing it, the thing sounds better doing it, whatever all those things are, it's going to make the end product, the end goal, that much better. With how much effort, you decide if it's worth it. Like, I love this. I am the newest actor musician stan. And I'm not even one. I'm going to go get my ukulele. I'm going to practice. And then, wow.
After hours convention ukulele sing-along. Bring it.
8 hours of convention on a screen. And then I'm like, hey, Katrina, can we Zoom for a quick ukulele lesson? You're not busy, right? You're not reading resolutions.
Technically, right? There's nothing in the convention rules that says we can't self-accompany while we sing.
That is a good way to get people to pay attention.
I mean, when this resolution hits the floor, we got a 7-minute set.
This is iconic strategizing, Katrina, and I need everyone to clock this. Everyone who sees this.
Because I mean something about
Well, it seems that both of these resolutions are good first steps in getting the ball rolling and very long journeys. It's been so interesting hearing more about them. As a reminder, if you have any questions about the chorus resolution, a great resource is Jen Cody. We have her email in the chat. It's jcody@actorsequity.org. And if you have any questions about the actor Musician resolution, don't reach out to me. I don't know who the best resource for that is. It's probably not myself or Sarah Quinn Taylor, no offense.
Okay, I take offense to that because I absolutely want to keep talking about this. No, I would say, well, actually, in all seriousness, since we are like the people here, I can only speak for myself. If someone is interested, you actually can contact me and we will not have a discussion about it, but I will ask people who know much more about it if they are fine. And I know the makers of all of these resolutions, and I presume, I cannot speak for them, but I would presume that they would be more than happy to wax poetic about actor musicians.
Yeah, like on
so
my
actually
end,
can message me.
On my end, please feel free to email me. My email is Katrina Michaels, aa@gmail.com. I'm not the motion maker here. I cannot speak for the motion maker, but I can pass anything directly on to the motion maker. I'm also happy just to talk about why this is important and some of the logistical stuff with being an actor musician.
I also just need to clock that Katrina Michaels, AEA at Gmail. Katrina, when she got elected to be a delegate, made herself a separate
Okay, but here's the thing.
Email address.
Was inherently flawed. I set that up, and then because whenever you send a mass email to all delegates, it actually goes to my portal email, which is my regular email. So my compartmentalizing did not work.
Oh no!
Because I thought that'd be a nice way to separate, and also, you know, if a member yells at me, they don't have my personal email. But
yes, I was literally about to like applaud you because I was like, I didn't know what I was doing besides anything. Like, and also I don't mind people having my personal email, but just like in terms of like the mass emails of like, email this and it goes to all the delegates. Like, I had. Wow. But now, I mean, I don't take it back because like the thought was so brilliant. And the execution, maybe by no fault of your own. And this is the perfect segue. Colleen, please tell people what the chat tomorrow is going to be in terms of execution with technology.
Tomorrow's chat is discussing website upgrades and usability and an equity app. Thrilling, and that is tomorrow, Sunday, April 18th at 11 p.m. Eastern Time, 8 p.m. I will be long asleep, but I will watch the replay later. That is a very exciting conversation.
I have to say before we log off, it is in fact 11 p.m. Eastern Time because we are a national union and we have people in all time zones. And we got feedback from people about, hey, can we have some that are scheduled outside of the 9 to 5, outside, you know, and they're recorded, so they live in Facebook land and YouTube land. But this is me extending a hand to all of our poor West Coast delegates who, guess what time we are starting convention for them? 8 a.m. I mean, there's so many things that go into it. There's so many practicalities about time. Like, it's never going to please anyone. But I literally, Julianne Godfrey is fantastic, and she's moderating tomorrow night. And she is on the West Coast. And so she's like, I could do 8 my time. And I was like, you know what? We're doing it. This is an act of solidarity for every West Coast delegate that has to be on Zoom for the convention. Actually, we're not even using Zoom. I don't know what platform we're using. Maybe we'll know in 8 days. So, because they have to wake up at 8 a.m. And I'm here to say that I love this union and I love being a delegate. But if someone told me that I had to be there at 8 a.m., I'm not sure.
That's why we're theater actors and not film and TV actors.
Exactly. Thank you, Jonathan.
It was 6 a.m. calls for TV. Forget about it.
Yeah. I just had to say that because it actually, yes, you heard Colleen correctly, and it is a show of support and solidarity. So West Coast friends, show up.
Well, that's very considerate of you. And I want to thank all of you for taking the time to speak today and also serving as delegates. You are ultimately serving the union and speaking on behalf of the rest of us. And so I'm very, very grateful for how much energy and effort and time you're putting into spreading this information. And so thank you so much. And you guys are going to keep doing these convention conversations. These are happening live daily from now for the next week until April 24th. So I'm going to keep tuning in.
Yeah. Thanks, Colleen. And thank you, Colleen. And also, just so everyone knows, we are just beginning the talks right now of like what creating a space like this looks like after the convention, because the work doesn't just happen at the convention. So that's a lot. It's going to be a lot of like reply all email threads. So we're like maybe putting that off until we have the bandwidth. But yeah, I firmly believe in if you make it, they will come. And so thank you to every single person that's here and watching this later for just showing up and listening to us request Czech drinking songs. So.
Let's close it out with that. Let's
play us out, Katrina.
Until she does it. That's our.
Wait, Katrina. Wait, yeah. No, Katrina, please go get your recording. Please, Katrina, please. Katrina, please. I have the power to end this broadcast, and I am not hitting end broadcast.
I'm pulling out my guitar.
I got so much sheet music. It's been a while since I actually, it's in my living room right now because I've been failing to practice. I've been doing a show in which I play piano. And actually tonight I have to do an 80s set, which I am not, like, that's not my domain. So I've been practicing a lot of 80s rock anthems on the piano / with one like ukulele twist.
Is this you talking in circles to avoid? You're just waiting for me to hit and broadcast.
Never.
We're not getting a
Never. I don't know what you're doing now.
All right,
I'll do some Czech drinking instead, and that's how we can close out. Whatever that looks like, that's what I'll be doing.
And in the last 4 minutes of this, we've officially gone off the handle. Thank you all for tuning in. We love you all. Goodbye.
Bye.